Good morning. I'd like to call the Government Contract Review Committee meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback.
Here.
Senator Southworth.
Here.
Senator Yates.
Present via Zoom.
Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
Here.
Representative Mitzer. Representative Cook.
Here.
Chairman Meredith.
Present.
Thank you. The minutes should reflect that a quorum is present and that the committee is duly constituted to conduct business. Pursuant to KRS 45A 705, Government Contract Review Committee members serve 2-year terms. Committee chairs are elected by committee members also for 2-year terms. Those terms have now expired and new elections must be held pursuant to the aforementioned statute. Is there a nomination from a House member for the position of House Co-Chair?
I make the motion to appoint Matt Cook for House Chair.
Representative Hart has nominated Representative Cook. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Representative, second by Senator Hornback. Is there a motion from a representative member that nominations cease and that Representative Cook be elected by acclamation?
So moved.
Thank you. Motion by Representative Hart. Is there a second? Motion having been made, nominations cease, and Representative Cook be elected House Co-Chair by acclamation without objection, so ordered. Is there a nomination from a Senate member for the position of Senate Co-Chair?
I nominate Senator.
Senator Hornback has nominated Senator Meredith. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Southworth. Is there a motion from a Senate member that nominations cease and that Senator Meredith be elected by acclamation?
So moved.
Motion by Senator Meredith. Seconded?
Second.
Senator Southworth. Motion have been made and seconded that nominations cease and that Senator Meredith be elected Senate Co-Chair by acclamation without objection, so ordered. May I present Senator Meredith, the Senate Co-Chair of the Government Contract Review Committee.
Thank you, Kim, and I'd like to welcome all the new committee members. Big turnover this year, 8-person committee, and we've got 5 new members, and it can be a little bit overwhelming in the very beginning. And one of the things I would encourage you to do, if you haven't done so already, is review Chapter 45A, which is our model procurement code for Kentucky. And if you want to get to the Reader's Digest version of it, I suggest you go to 45A.705, which gives the specific authority to this committee. And it lists 4 bullet points, but just for simplification this morning, I'd like to point out 3 that really are the essence of what we do. One is to examine whether the service could or should be performed by state personnel for personal service contracts and memorandum of agreement. Examine the amount and duration of the contract or agreement, and examine the appropriateness of any exchange of resources or responsibilities. Now, the authority of this committee is we can either approve these contracts, we can disapprove. If that occurs, then it goes to the Finance Cabinet for final decision, or we can defer to request additional information. So remember, we're in essence kind of advisory in nature, that the final decision rests with the Finance Cabinet. So again, a lot of information, short period of time. We've got a lot of contracts that are pulled today, which is kind of unusual this time of year. But we'll get right into it. I would hope that we can complete this work in an hour's time, because I know other people have other commitments and responsibilities. So we will move right into the agenda unless there's some questions or comments anyone would like to make beforehand. If not, again, let me congratulate Representative Cook for being the co-chair of this committee. Look forward to working with you. First item on the agenda is consideration of the minutes of the December 15, 2020 meeting of the committee. Is there a motion that they be considered as being approved? Motion by Representative Minter. Is there a second? Second by Representative Hart. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback. Senator Southworth. Senator Yates.
Aye.
Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Mitzer.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Aye.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. All vendors are registered with the Secretary of State's office. The next item on the agenda is the deferred list. These are item numbers 20 and 21 on the December routine personal service contract list. If representatives are here, please identify yourself for the record. I think they will be
Good,
remote.
good morning. My name is Linda Bridwell, and I'm with I'm the Executive Director of the Kentucky Public Service Commission.
Are you solo this morning?
I believe one of our attorneys is with us. Quan, are you
Yes.
available?
I am.
Yes.
My name's Quan Wen.
And I'm Karen Wilson with the Public Service Commission.
All right, thank you. Appreciate you being here this morning. Obviously, these were deferred from the previous meeting, and I believe some of our committee members may have received the correspondence you sent to us as a follow-up to our deferral. I appreciate that information very much, and I think in light of the fact we have new committee members here today, that it's important to cover that again. I think you covered the question very well, and I hope you can appreciate when we get these capsule summaries of these contracts, it's very difficult for us to determine what the intent is. And I can tell you, the last time it looked like the state was accepting financial responsibility for something that a third party should be responsible for. As you explained in your letter, that's not the case, but I wish you could explain that to the committee in terms of the flow of the dollars, because that was the reason for the deferral and the reason for our confusion.
Absolutely. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today. As I explained in my letter, and I certainly don't want to go too far into detail, but to help the new committee members, the Citing Board was established statutorily to review opportunities, merchant proposals for new new electrical generation. Under that statute, the PSC, in addition to being responsible for those, as the Citing Board is attached to the PSC, the Citing Board also was given authorization to retain consultants to help assess the sites that are viewed. And so each year we have issued RFPs for consultants to be available to us rather than retain those services in-house, because as you'll note in my letter, while between 2002 and 2014, there were only about a dozen or so cases that were brought, and most of them were coal generation, new gas-fired generation, electric plants. What we've seen, and then between 2014 and 2019, there were absolutely no petitions made to the Citing Board. What we've seen is an abundance of new solar sites proposed, and so we have issued these consultants. We're exercising our options in the contracts that we have with them to have them develop the site assessment reports that are required statutorily for the Citing Board. And that's what both of these two contracts are.
Well, thank you. But the essence of our concern was that who is paying this expense, and it's paid for by the developer. Is that correct?
Yes, I apologize. The Citing Board, there are requirements in the statute that the Citing Board take a deposit for each proposed merchant plant or merchant power producer. The deposit then pays for the consultant, and it is an actual fee. So there is a process at the end that if the Citing Board, the consultant charges more than what the deposit was, then the merchant plant has to pay the balance of it. So there's no impact to the general fund. This is paid entirely by the developers.
Well, no impact. The general fund is always music to our ears. I certainly understand it now. If there's any other questions for the committee members? If not, could I have a motion to approve this contract?
So,
Motion by Representative Cook, seconded by Representative Hart. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth, Senator Yates,
Yes.
Representative Bowling, Representative Hart,
yes.
Representative Minter,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you all for participating this morning and presenting. A lot of this for our committee members, including myself, is an education process to how state government works, and I appreciate you taking the time to explain that to us this morning.
Absolutely.
Total number of items on the agenda today, we have 569 agreements in the amount of $224,006,321.13. Next order of business, consideration of the agenda, including the deferred list, personal service contract list, PSC amendment list, memorandum of agreement list, memorandum of agreement amendment list, and except for those items selected for further review. Do we have a motion to consider the contracts reviewed without objection? Motion by Representative Hart. Is there a second? Second by Representative Minter. All those in favor will vote aye. All opposed, no. Clerk, please call the row.
Senator Hornback. Senator Southworth. Senator Yates.
Aye.
Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Minter.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Aye.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. The first item on the pulled list is with the Department of Military Affairs and is number 27 on the routine PSC green list. If representatives are here or present, please identify yourself for the record.
Mr. Chairman, this is Brigadier General Retired Ben Adams, Executive Director, Department of Military Affairs. I also have Retired Brigadier General Charlie Jones, who's challenged, and I have my budget manager, the Department of Military.
Appreciate you being here this morning. We're having a little bit of difficulty with your feedback on your microphone, so we may have to have a little redundancy here and ask you to repeat yourself. But just for the committee's information, this contract was pulled because there's a retroactive request for approval. And even though we have virtually 80% of our new members, our members are new, the remaining members, being Senator Hornback and Representative Hart, will tell you that our committee has a real aversion to retroactive approval of contracts. And sometimes they are justified, but more often not, they're not, and we challenge those. But I do appreciate the department being here this morning. I will tell you folks that they contacted me 2 or 3 weeks ago to talk about this. We had a great explanation. I think that the request is warranted, but I asked them, given that we have so many new committee members, to talk about why this retroactive approval is being requested. So to that end, I'll turn it over to you folks to give an explanation as to what has occurred.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope the feedback is not difficult.
It's better, much better.
I'm having a difficult time in the building over here on Boone Center. It's all concrete, and the signal is pretty weak. But again, thank you for this opportunity for us to be able to explain the situation that unfortunately that we ended up with. And to let you know, this is not how the Department of Military Affairs does business. We are very diligent in making sure that we budget correctly and pay our bills correctly without any kind of retroactive contracts. In this case, sir, however, when COVID and the pandemic started, the Youth Challenge schools were allowed to remain open. And in the beginning of this process, one of the mandated requirements was that all cadets and cadre had to remain negative. And as we began each class and throughout their classes, they were checked periodically. Unfortunately, when this was started, the rapids test was not part of a master agreement. And we had not known that in the beginning. And as we continued to pay our bills, the growth of the billing far exceeded our ability to pay based on the limitations that we had. As we found this out, and some of the confusion too was how the organizations that were doing the testing was trying to bill us individually versus as a complete bill for a class. So as we worked through the confusion, we realized that we needed to have a contract and to pay some outstanding bills that we currently had already occurred. So as we did that, we contacted finance, and unfortunately, we should have reached out to your committee, sir, to let you know that we were in that predicament, and it's certainly a lesson learned. But we have since created the contract. We have caught up with all of our bills, and we have actually 2 classes getting ready to begin right now, and we hope that the committee will agree with our approach and our contract and allow us to continue forward with the training and also the education for these at-risk children.
Thank you, sir. And I want to thank you again for the conference call we had a couple of weeks ago. It was very beneficial for me personally. Again, just for the information on our new committee members. Sometimes having a retroactive request that's 6 months old, to me personally, raises a red flag, and that's why I pulled this. In defense of these folks, retroactive approvals are required from time to time, but they should be very strong, legitimate reasons. And what I've asked people to do is, if you know you're going to have one, let us know as soon as possible and give us that background information. That's not in our statute. It's just a request. I think it shows respect for our committee and the responsibilities we have, because, again, very difficult for us to feel the responsibilities of our committee to say these things are legitimate if it happens 6 months after the fact. So these folks, again, understand that and have committed to me that they will communicate with us in the future in that manner, and I appreciate that. So to that end, if there are no questions, I'd entertain a motion to consider the contract review without objection. Motion by Representative Cook, seconded by Senator Southworth. Clerk, if you would, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth, Senator Yates,
Aye.
Representative Bowling, Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Aye.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. And again, thank you for presenting this morning and sharing the information with us, and we look forward to working with you throughout this next year.
Thank you, sir, and thank you to the committee.
Thank you. Next item on the pulled list is with the Kentucky Community Technical and College System. It is number 34 on the routine PSC green list. And KCTS has a conflict and is requesting a deferral of this contract for the time being. Is there a motion to defer? Motion by Senator Southworth. Second. Second by Representative Hart. All in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth, Senator Yates,
Aye.
Representative Bowling, Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Aye.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. The next items on the pulled list is with the Transportation Office of the Secretary, and is number 39 and 40 on the routine PSC green list, and number 33 on the PSC Amendment Ivory list. If representatives are here, please identify yourself for the record.
Yes, Chairman. My name's Randall Royer. I'm the Executive Director for the Office of Audit for the Transportation Cabinet. I have at least 3 other individuals from my office here today.
Could they identify themselves for the record as well, please?
I'm Laura Hagan. I'm the Assistant Director in the Division of Purchases for the Transportation Cabinet.
This is Terry Harmon, Assistant Director for the Office of Audits of the Transportation Cabinet.
Carly Cockley, the branch manager for the External Audit Branch.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here this morning. Representative Cook has questions on number 33 on the PSC green list.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me just start off by telling the agency staff, committee members, as a new member of the committee, I'm going to ask a lot of questions. May well be asking questions that might be considered redundant by people that have been on this committee for a while or previous meetings and previous members, but I take this seriously. I really look forward to this. With that being said, Mr. Chairman, I pulled this contract with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet for the auditing of the Canaan Rock Ferry because I'm concerned that we're spending $30,000 to audit this business when the state auditor operates on a fee-for-service program, and perhaps we should be looking at them for this work. So an explanation would be great. Thank you.
Yes, we did offer this to the APA, and they turned it down, stating staffing requirements, and that's why we had to bid it out. I have an external staff. I only have 4 auditors, and we're dealing with a number of other issues, including PPP issues with our consultants. So like I said, we did offer it to the APA. They turned us down because of staffing requirements, so therefore we bid it out.
Okay.
Any other questions regarding this particular contract? If not, I'm going to hold approval on this one because we have another one on our green list. Senator Southworth has questions on number 44 on our personal service contract list. Senator Southworth.
Thank you all for being here. My question is relating to the weather forecasting services. I I wanted to get clarity on why we have a Minnesota outfit helping us know about our weather in Kentucky, and if there are not any other outfits in Kentucky that could help with that.
Hi, this is Laura Hagan. So we issued an RFP for this service, and DTN out of Minnesota was the only bid that we received.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman. Do we have any idea, like, the nature of the services? Is this a fairly, limited number of people out there, or we just happen to only have one response this one time?
We reached out to, I think there were 3 or 4 others that we were aware of that offer these types of services, and we only got the one response.
One more, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Well, certainly.
Are the 3 or 4 others located in Kentucky, or are we talking about a nationwide pool?
No, they were all out of state.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions about this particular contract? If not, before we move on, I'll entertain a motion for approval of number 39 and number 44 on our PSC green list. For a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Senator Southworth, the second. Second by Representative Mentor. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth, Senator Yates,
Aye.
Representative Bowling, Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Aye.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to our next contract, Representative Cook has a question on number 33 on the PSC amendment ivory list. Representative Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This one is for legal services, and I have questions why we are contracting with outside legal services for a department that has a legal department, and whether we are seeking the services of the Attorney General's office before seeking outside legal services. And finally, why would we grant the higher rate for a Kentucky firm to provide this service?
Right. Will Fogel, are you on here?
Yes, if you can hear me.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Will Fogel, the Executive Director of the Office of Legal Services for the Department of for the Transportation Cabinet. This is a personal service contract with Wyatt, Terrett, and Combs in connection primarily back when the Louisville Bridges project was getting underway in connection with the provisions of KRS 175B, which established the Kentucky Public Transportation Infrastructure Authority and dealt with the implementation of that statute and legal services in connection with the Bridges project and ongoing legal services of a complicated nature and ongoing nature that required dedicated representation to the KIPTIA, the Kentucky Public Transportation Infrastructure Authority board, and the rate was established because of the level of expertise of the law firm that was brought in, and Laura may be able to add some information as to the process that occurred to bring the Wyatt firm in, which was before my term. But that's the thumbnail sketch of the overall reasoning for outside counsel in this circumstance. Is the the complexity of the legal work required and the expertise of the firm that was chosen.
Just to emphasize the point, this is continuing litigation. Is that correct?
Yes, there is continued litigation, which is proceeding in federal court in Indianapolis regarding toll receipts, which of course is a class action lawsuit in federal court, which again is a very complex item of litigation in which the Wyatt firm is representing Kiptia, and that litigation is ongoing and will be, of course, for some time, as the class has not been certified. And I really can't get into too much detail with respect to the litigation, but it's certainly ongoing, as you mentioned, sir.
When was that suit originally filed? Do you recall?
It was filed a little more than a year ago, as I recall. And of course, in a class action lawsuit, you have an extensive discovery phase as well as a class certification phase, which is the process of identifying potential claimants who allege that they have been improperly billed for tolling using the Louisville bridges.
Any other questions from committee members?
No, sir.
If not, is there a motion to approve this contract as presented?
So move.
Motion by Representative Cook. Is there a second? Second by Senator Southworth. All those in favor of the motion will vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth, Senator Yates,
Aye.
Representative Bowling, Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Aye.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. And thank you, folks, for testifying this morning. We appreciate the information.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
And I want to commend our new committee members. You know, this is a great education for all of us as to how state government works. So we welcome all questions, and I think you've had some excellent ones this morning. The next item on the pull list are with the University of Kentucky, and our number is 45, 47, 48 on the routine PSC green list, and numbers 36, 37, 38, and 39 on the PSC amendment ivory list. If representatives are here, and I know they are, please come forward and identify yourself for the record. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Chairman Meredith, Chairman Cook. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. I think what we have today, I believe, are 7 total contracts pulled.
Yeah, if we could, we're going to start with our PSC list, and Senator Southworth had the question on number 45, but I'd appreciate it if the other members that are in attendance would identify yourself for the record.
Sure, I'm Craig Collins. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for UK Healthcare. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Barry Swanson. I'm the Chief.
And for the record, I'm Bart Harden, the Director of Government Relations. Before we start, Chairman, I want to mention one thing. What you have, especially on the 4 contracts that have additional scope increases today, you're going to see that as we go through the future because of the direction of this committee. I think about 18 months ago, you challenged us for the way we were reporting contracts initially. I think from the period of July 18 through June 20, we had $22 million of contract authorizations come before this committee. We were admittedly so just putting amounts on contracts that we thought we might get to as opposed to actual dollar amounts we were spending. We have fundamentally changed our process. We are now trying to give best guesstimates of what we're going to spend on contracts, and that's the reason you see 4 today that have scope increases. We missed what we were going to spend, but yet we didn't overinflate those when we initially submitted them. But you're going to see some of these come back as we move through the rest going forward, I guess is my point. But the committee made a suggestion, we took it, and I think we're both better for it. So I appreciate the chairman's direction on that.
Well, appreciate you listening to our committee. And just for historical perspective, I think one year, and I've been on the committee since 2018, it may have been 2018, you had over $330 million in consulting contracts that were on an as-needed basis, and that was a point of our concern. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate you hearing us on that. But to that end, let's jump into these specific contracts.
Sure.
And Senator Southworth has questions on number 45 on the PSC green list.
Yeah, as a former graphic designer myself, I am aware of the need to get really good services, but I wanted to get an idea. Obviously, there's all kinds of students that are probably right now in a graphic design program. I'm just wondering if there's not another way besides just an outside contract to an out-of-state entity, if we don't have something in-state or even amongst our student body or in-house that we can use this for.
I can address that. So what we did do with this is that we went out for a bid. We used an RFP process that's required to be able to look for the services needed for this activity. I cannot
Okay. Any other question regarding this contract?
One follow-up.
If you wouldn't mind, hold it. Let's do both the
okay.
PSC contracts together if we could.
Sure.
Save us some time and effort. Next series of contracts are number 47 and 48 on the green list. And Representative Cook has questions. And I'd ask to make sure that your microphone is close to you because I think we're having some difficulty in hearing. Is it on? Should have a green light.
Sorry, I didn't have it on. I
That's all
apologize.
right. Representative Cook, questions on
Yes,
number
sir.
47 and 48.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. This is on question 47, on green 47. On this contract, it appears we're being asked to grant a broad contract in the amount of $1 million to be spent on consulting services on an as-needed basis. I think that's something we'd all like to have is $1 million for as-needed. Blank check for that. But I would like to know with some specifics what services are being provided and how we arrived at this decision to cut $1 million blank check, and specifically what's this vendor offering that nobody else is offering.
Thank you. First, I'd mention that the dollars in which we pay to these contractors are through agency funds, so they aren't coming out of, they aren't really coming from the state funds, but they are agency funds generated from UK Healthcare. With FTI Consulting, the reason that we've included them, this most likely won't be $1 million, but we are unsure until they come through with the bid. We wanted to understand with them and others, we are going to go through a competitive process with a couple other vendors that are on our selected list, but this is one of the vendors or one of the consultants that has some expertise in this area. UK Healthcare not only has the university activities for our hospital and our physician groups in Lexington, but we also represent a contract for the state with Eastern States, the psychiatric hospital. And one of the things that we're trying to look at as an organization is how can we better serve both operations with shared services. And so before we've had standalone services between the two organizations, and we think it would be best to be able to combine those and be able to do more in a shared service environment. And that's what we're trying to get the best outcomes from a consulting agreement with one of these organizations. So that's the process that we're trying to go through.
Okay.
Any questions, Representative Cook?
You want me to move to 48, or we're gonna?
Yes, 48. Yes,
Okay.
please continue.
And then moving on to question Green 48 with the contract to Steptoe and Johnson, we're being asked to contract for an amount not to exceed $750,000. Again, I have to go back and ask the question: what a university with a nationally recognized law firm is asking for a budget to approve $750,000 without specifically addressing the specific case they're going to be working on?
That's a good question, and I'm going to say a couple things here. In a roughly $4 billion operation, which is UK Healthcare and the main campus, we contract for a lot of legal services. And as a new member on this committee, you're going to see that as you move through. We don't have the legal expertise on campus in a whole lot of higher education and a whole lot of healthcare areas. We do have a general counsel, but a lot of times their expertise runs really thin in certain topic areas. What we have contracted for this $750,000 for Steptoe and Johnson, again, this is amount not to exceed, not necessarily we will expend it all, but we could. But there's two areas here on this contract. One is specialized Title IX work. And the second part of this is we as a UK enterprise are exploring a handful. And when I say a handful, it's more than one or two, probably less than 7 or 8 business opportunities, and we require outside legal counsel to do a lot of the due diligence on those things. And that's exactly what this contract is for, is evaluating potential business opportunities for either the healthcare enterprise, primarily the healthcare enterprise on business opportunities, and Title IX, I won't say litigation necessarily, but Title IX cases which could potentially lead to litigation.
Thank you.
Senator Southwell, if you have a question about this contract.
Yes, could you explain a little bit more about the Title IX? Because I know that's obviously something big, but I'm just wondering how much do you see of that, and how much of this might include just ballparking generally, what we see on that?
Quite frankly, for this specific contract, I think the Title IX component is a very small piece of this one. I think the due diligence on some business opportunities is primarily the bulk of this contract. So I don't want to give you a percentage. My general counsel's not here, but I think the bulk of this contract is for business due diligence.
Any other questions, comments?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this is Senator David Yates by Zoom. Just a couple quick questions, if I may.
Thank you, Senator Yates. Please proceed.
And this may be a question that I'm sure members that have been here previously would know. Right now, we're talking about ballparks. After the funds are spent and they're used, let's say that $100,000 is spent on Title IX or $700,000 is spent on business prospect looking into. Will those amounts be broken down and submitted back to this committee at any time so that we still have oversight or view of it was testified today that it would be spent a certain way, so that we do have some idea of knowing that in effect was spent as testified?
I do not think we're required to submit any additional information once these contracts are approved. They are clearly within the scope of the enacted budget we have by the General Assembly, and they are within those parameters, but I do not think we have any follow-up reporting requirements, and I'll defer to LRC staff on that issue, but that is my understanding.
And if I may, just to follow up, and I guess my look at coming from the Louisville Metro Council, and I had chaired contracts locally. And one thing we did a lot of times is repetitive contracts year after year. We would look at the past contract to see how it was spent. And that was a little bit of oversight to make sure going forward it was done correctly. So I wasn't sure if that was something we did here at the state level. I know that we're doing a lot more money and a lot more contracts, and that may be a little more difficult. My other quick question, on the previous contract that we had spoke about, it was testified not to exceed $1 million. We kept talking about $1 million. On my screen, the FTI Consulting Inc. Consulting, it does say $1.5 million. I don't know if that's just written incorrectly there, or if we're talking about $1.5 million or $1 million. And the only reason I bring that up, it didn't seem like chump changed.
It is 1.5. It is 1.5. That is what the request is at this point, but it would be not to exceed that.
Okay, I guess we testified that it said that you did not believe that it would exceed $1 million, or is that just a misstatement?
That was I was referring back to the reference to the million, but it's 1.5 is what we're requesting, but we could take it to $1 million. I am fine with that also. We just are at the process of evaluating this one, and we knew that we wanted to bring this consultant to the table because of their expertise and have them warranted before we spend any dollars to someone that we weren't allocated for.
Thank you very much for answering my questions.
Thanks, Senator Yates. And Mr. Hardin, and for the benefit of the committee, this is kind of an ongoing conversation since 2018, which you've already referenced, and you made some changes. There's not a statutory requirement for you folks to report what you have spent, but in 2018, I think 2019, you did provide us with a follow-up report as to how those dollars were spent. Even though you're not required to by law, I think it helps build the confidence between the university and this committee as to how we're spending these dollars. So again, even though it's not a requirement, I would highly encourage you to do that.
Great.
We can actually do, we can absolutely do that, Chairman, on what kind of interval you would want. I don't know if that's something you would want yearly, maybe every other year, whatever, but we're more than happy to comply with whatever the chairman's wishes are in that space, because we can run that report and we can make that available to you.
I think that'd be very beneficial, and I would like to see that. And I don't want to create a bureaucracy for anyone, but I think on an annual basis would be very worthwhile.
You just need to tell us if you'd like to see that on a fiscal year, a calendar year, how you communicate you would like to see it, and we will absolutely comply with that request.
Well, since all these contracts are on a July 1 fiscal year, I think it would make sense just to
we can do that
report.
Can do
Okay. Are there any other questions from committee members? If not, I entertain a motion to approve contracts 45, 47, and 48 on the green list. Motion by Representative Mentor. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Representative Hart. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth, Senator Yates,
Aye.
Representative Bowling, Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Aye.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Continuing on our PSC Amendment Ivory list, we have contracts 37, 38, 39, and Representative Cook, Senator Southworth, and I all have questions. And if our committee members don't mind, I'd like to take the lead on this because I think I know where we're going with this, because again, we've had this conversation once before. I appreciate your earlier explanation about this, Mr. Hardin, about the change in the process you've had. Again, a one-time $330 million in consulting contracts on an as-needed basis. We're seeing 4 contracts here that respectively have a 200% increase, 75% increase, 60% increase, and 38% increase from the contract submitted July 1. And not put words in your mouth, but kind of you missed the target on it in coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So my concern, and I mean to challenge anyone, is that you've heard my sensitivity to these contracts and trying to be more realistic. But I hope we're not trying to patronize me and say, well, 120 million sounds a whole lot better than 330 million, and if we got to come back, we can come back. My concern is, again, and again, I think it's going to be shared by the other committee members, is that we're approving amounts for projects on an as-needed basis without having any idea what those projects are going to be. And I don't want to tie the hands of any organization, particularly one the size of the University of Kentucky and the Medical Center, but I just have never felt that's consistent with the intent of Chapter 45A. We're in essence giving you folks a blank check and said, here it is, trust us. Again, the way I think it gives us some confidence is what we've already talked about is come back a year later and tell us what you actually spent. But I'm not sure I'm ever going to get the comfort level that I'm satisfied with that. And again, I don't know how to resolve that, but that's my concern with these questions. But I'll yield to Representative Cook as far as questions he may have.
Sir, Mr. Chairman, you pretty well summed up the question.
Senator Southworth.
Mr. Chairman, if I might,
yes, sir.
Let me just address a couple of those comments. I think you're right. We, especially in UK healthcare, we're about a $2.8 billion enterprise. And let me state this very clearly, no general fund dollars run through that enterprise. But nevertheless, this General Assembly appropriates the entirety of the budget for the University of Kentucky. That does include UK healthcare. So that is the ultimate policy document and the spending parameters you put around us. So you do have the final say on what we get to spend in UK healthcare. I'll start there, but you are correct. All these contracts, especially these four, I think we can go through each one of them and tell you why we need these scope increases. It's not a blanket per se. I know it might be perceived that way, and it's easy to perceive it that way, but I think every contract we bring to you, we expect a positive ROI on that for UK healthcare. We are not entering into contracts that we do not believe will produce a net positive value at the end of the day. And these contracts are the ones that are helping us identify business decision and opportunities that will increase that NPV. Occasionally, will we have a contract that comes out that doesn't show a positive NPV? Absolutely. But by and large, when we look at the overall enterprise, the goal is to increase the return on investment and the net present value of our operation. And we do this, again, on a $2.8 billion enterprise with a lot of consulting and a lot of contract work.
Certainly don't deny anybody the need for consulting services, but I think the purpose of this committee, to put it very straightforwardly, is we're kind of the good housekeeping seal of approval. Sure. That it's validation to our constituents that, yeah, these monies are spent, they're spent wisely. Mm-hmm. We hope every consulting contract has a ROI. I don't think they do.
That's right.
But, in this environment that we're operating in right now, let's look at number 39 with Deloitte. Sure. Another cabinet gave Deloitte a huge contract this past year. Sure. So I'll quote Ronald Reagan, I trust, but we've got to verify. Sure. Now we have a contract that you originally said we would spend $13 million on, and now this firm has been given another $5 million. If those are separate scopes of work, shouldn't that additional $5 million be separately bid? Because it looks like it potential, and again, folks, I'm not challenging your integrity whatsoever. It's just the appearance of it. You let contracts. You say we're going to award this one for $13 million for consulting services on an as-needed basis. Then you come back and say, well, we're going to give them 5 more on an as-needed basis. Well, why? We don't know why there's a need for 5 more, and if there is, why isn't that bid separately?
I've got to be very careful on this one, but because of some ongoing potential opportunities we have. The bulk of this contract is associated with those. And I know that's not helpful to this committee, but it goes back to that pocket of opportunities I was talking about earlier, and this particular $5 million is associated very much in that space. In addition to, they are our partner with Epic.
Our Epic implementation partner also.
So,
Well, let me tell you what I'm suspecting.
okay,
All these contracts. It's a result of the flood of federal funds that this state is receiving from the CARES Act. And we got to have some way to spend it.
actually, I can assure you on this, this is not the case.
Well, I appreciate the assurance, but I hope you can see why I would have that.
I totally
conclusion.
understand that. That is not the case.
Mr. Chairman, we've had this ongoing conversation
We
for
have.
a lot of years, and I expect we'll have it for a lot more, assuming we're both in these roles. But the fact of the matter is, I think hopefully we will see the fruit of a lot of this consulting come forth in the not too distant future. But it is not associated with CARES dollars.
No.
Senator
Mr. Chair,
Southworth. Senator Southworth, you have a question?
Can we maybe just roll through each number here, 36 through 39, and just get what you just said, kind of just a spot check on, okay, the contract was, let's say in 36's case, 1.2 million, now it's 3.3. So what was the old project? What's the new project? So we can kind of get a better clarity on, our assessment of whether this should have been separately bid or not. And we just know what those things are. And if you are using general terms, like on the 39, well, we were looking at, one new thing, but now we're adding a second one in because we found that in the middle of that, whatever your explanation is.
Sure, I'll take that opportunity. So on number 36, this is around the request to increase the funding for Kaufman Hall. And we use Kaufman Hall as a consultant for our financial planning and review for both UK healthcare, and now part of the process is to incorporate the entire university, so we have one financial plan and one 5-year forecast that takes place. And so the reason for this increase is that as we continue through the year, we're looking to use Kaufman Hall to help us implement a new budgeting system for the entire university, to be quite honest. We've used them in healthcare for a number of years, and now this is expanding also so that we can look at our budgeting and forecast for higher education. We can also look at an enrollment modeling for higher education process, the long-range planning for higher education, and really putting some more meat around our grant planning activities within the organization. We also use Kaufman Hall, and part of this process that we were talking about, we use them to look at how we can do some integration with some of our partners across the Commonwealth in healthcare around joint ventures and some of the other activities that we've been known for at UK Healthcare in trying to partner across the Commonwealth to provide safe and excellent care to our collective patients. And so some of the recent fruits as an example of that activity is where we've been able to partner with the Lexington Clinic in Lexington and provide an expanded cancer program throughout the Markey Cancer Center. And so we use consultants to help us in those activities. And another would be where we recently in the last year or so, we were able to work with the Lexington Surgery Center and have a partnership and an ownership within that to expand our ambulatory surgery footprint within the Lexington community at this point for patients to have greater access to those services and easier access. So those are the projects that have expanded with Kaufman Hall since the last time we came here with approval for that contract.
Any other questions about 36? Yes.
This is housekeeping. Do we need to approve these separately, or can we just?
I'm going to pull all these together and approve them as a group.
Okay, because I wanted to get a line item. It doesn't have to be that lengthy, but 37, 38, 39, what the project was, and then what the expansion is for.
Sure. Okay. So if we go on to 37 with Huron. With Huron, they were a previous partner that we had in the prior biennium that was working with us to prepare for our EPIC, our medical, our electronic medical record activities to be able to prepare us to be able to move forward with that project. So they did a lot around access and how do we schedule our patients. So they were helping us build an infrastructure to move on. We had a little carryover from the last biennium into the current year, and that's why we asked for dollars at that point. What's happened since then is because of the public health emergency and the emergence of the activities that took place there, we asked them for assistance to help us understand and build a strategic and development process around reporting and the guidelines for us on how we can keep track of the dollars we have received around the CARE Acts so that we can substantiate the use of those dollars. All these were new guidelines coming out from HHS and from other organizations, so we used them to help us in a consulting mode and then to help us format really a database so that we are able to respond once those guidelines are finalized. They're still being changed as we speak. We have different things that are taking place in the accounting environment and how we can make sure that we're assuring to pass a single audit, and also if we have to go forward for FEMA funding, that we have the capability to account for those and be able to do that in a compliant manner. So all these dollars were grant funds, and we've got to be able to account for them correctly. So that's what we used them for, and that was part of the add-on. We had some dollars, but we're asking now to continue to finish that project off is what we're after.
Any questions about 37? 38?
For Blue and Company, can I
Please
go ahead and
yes,
give
please.
the explanation? So for Blue and Company, what we use them for primarily is they assist us with our Medicare cost reports. They help us with our DISH reports. They help us with our wage index reporting for healthcare. They help us with our Medicaid reports. And they also help us to determine fair market value for any of these outside agreements that we might have for management agreements or for personal service agreements for us when we take our physicians out to one of the areas across the Commonwealth and we're contracting to do services within those areas. So they help us stay compliant is what they do. They also help us many times. Medicare and Medicaid cost reports are reopened for prior years. And that's happened to us in the last year or so. So they help us go back and look at ways that we need to be able to report back to open those Medicare and Medicaid cost reports. They also represent not only UK Healthcare, but they represent Eastern States Hospital for us under our management agreement. And so since our original submission, we have had some of these new areas come forward that we've identified, and we need some additional expertise. We have folks that compile the data for the Medicare cost reports and Medicaid reports, but we need their expertise to keep up with all of the changes that are taking place in that ever-changing environment with CMS and within the HHS. So that's the reason for the increase with this group.
Any other questions regarding those contracts? Let me propose this, if I could. Again, even though it's not a statutory requirement, we've talked about a report.
Yeah.
I'd like to have a motion from this committee that our September meeting, that you provide us with a follow-up report showing the original amount that was approved, what the intent of that contract was, if that contract has been amended, the amount, and what the intent of that additional amount was as well.
Certainly.
Could we do that?
Yeah, certainly.
Could we have a motion to that effect? Senator Southworth.
So moved.
Can I offer a friendly amendment to that motion?
Almost certainly.
You mentioned getting the original amount and the expanded amount, but you forgot the amount actually spent on these not to exceed. So I want to make sure we get that in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
A
Absolutely.
motion for that.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second by, I believe, Senator Yates. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth, Senator Yates,
Aye.
Representative Bowling, Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Aye.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion passes. We need to move on to approving these contracts, number 36, 37, 38, and 39 on the PSC Amendment Ivory list. Is there a motion to that effect? No time to be shy.
So moved.
Motion by Representative Cook, seconded by Representative Hart. Clerk, if you would please call the roll. All in favor vote aye. All opposed no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth, Senator Yates,
Aye.
Representative Bowling, Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Aye.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye, motion carries. And gentlemen, appreciate you being here. Appreciate you listening to our concerns, and appreciate you willing to be part of the solution rather than part of the problem. Thank you for the work you do. Appreciate it. Thank you. Next items on the pull list are the University of Kentucky, University of Louisville, and our numbers 50 and 52 on the routine PSC green list. If representatives are present, please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning, Chairman Meredith. This is Shannon Rickett, Assistant VP for Government Relations with the University of Louisville. I have our General Counsel here. I'll let him introduce himself.
I believe it may be muted.
Thank you. Thought I had unmuted. My name is Tom Hoy. I'm General Counsel at the University of Louisville. I appreciate the opportunity to answer any questions that the committee has about our proposed contract with Hush Blackwell.
Appreciate you being available to us this morning. Representative Cook has questions on number 50.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Thank you all for being on here. Following my theme this morning, I just want to simply ask a question. Why are we contracting with outside legal services, and what type of cases are involved, and specifically what conflicts could be present that the in-house counsel could not represent the university's interest here?
Yes, sir. Glad to answer that question. This actually does not relate to cases. This relates to the regulations that the current administration promulgated, substantially altering the regulations under Title IX compliance. So the administration promulgated some 2,400 pages of regulations, and they required compliance, establishment of new policies and procedures for the university to follow in order to be in compliance with Title IX requirements. Because of the scope of these regulations and the short time frame that was required, we turned to outside counsel. Hush Blackwell has a national education practice. They had lawyers who had examined and understood those regulations and what they required, and they helped us develop new policies. They are helping us develop new policies and procedures in order to meet the compliance in a short time frame.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
On the Title IX, so the University of Louisville Law School, I mean, we have the proficient training in the Title IX expertise.
Absolutely.
Then?
Absolutely, and we have a Title IX coordinator who has a law degree. We have lawyers on our staff who work in the Title IX area on a regular basis to make sure that we address the needs of our students and faculty and staff on an ongoing basis. The problem here was this was a dramatic change in the whole structure of hearings and compliance, and it had to be addressed in short order. And our staffing here, we keep fairly lean, and there are only 5 lawyers currently in the Office of University Counsel, and we didn't have the capability to handle that in that short time frame.
Understand. Thank you.
Any other questions regarding this contract? Senator Southworth.
It says that we have a sole source document, and I'm trying to get a handle because at first I didn't blink. I understand special legal expertise. If it's a nationwide outfit that's kind of got things pre-cooked, it can save time, which saves us money. But we, have other universities out there, and I just heard about one that had Title IX issues, and I'm trying to get a handle on exactly why the sole source and at 375, that those two together was that I just don't understand why. I understand we don't have maybe time to bid for a turnaround, but I just want to get a little better handle on exactly how we had came to this sole source.
Yes, we used Hush Blackwell because we reached out to some fellow higher education institutions seeking recommendations for who could do this in short order. The University of Louisville uses other national firms from time to time for specialized matters. Hush Blackwell had particular expertise in this Title IX compliance and these new regulations, from recommendations from a number of institutions with which we have relationships. And we found their pricing to be quite reasonable. They were able to help us. The quote on the initial review of policies and procedures was about $13,000, and the additional funds are for training that will be not only training for our internal people here, but also training for hearing officers that will have to be retained by the university in order to conduct hearings under the new regulations. Does that answer your question? I'm not sure.
Fairly well, I suppose, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions regarding contract number 50? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve that without objection. Motion by Representative Hart, seconded by, excuse me, is that Senator Yates? Didn't catch that.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, sir. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth, Senator Yates,
Aye.
Representative Bowling, Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Aye.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye, motion carries. We'll move on to contract number 52.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to the committee.
Senator Southworth, I think you have a question on 52. Representative Cook, you may have as well, but I'll let Senator Southworth go first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to get a better handle. It looks to me like we're looking at an architectural design for residence hall, and as many know, there's new residence halls all the time from all kinds of universities, U of L included. And I want to find out why we need to design a new one if we can't just use a design from an old one.
Mike Materna, are you on?
Yes, Mike Materna with Planning, Design, and Construction for the university. So let me try to answer your question. So what we have done is this building is actually built on a location where we have a current building that has to be demolished. So therefore, we have to come up with a new design in order to create those 452 new units, including the housing that goes into that space. So unfortunately, we cannot just use a existing design because we have conditions that are new. We have to deal with site improvements. We have to deal with infrastructure in order to provide that design for that specific space.
Mr. Chairman, can I have a follow-up? I want to get a little better handle on the time frame in which we decided to start this project. As I think we're all aware, schooling is under a drastic change right now, and I'm wondering if these plans have started pre-online school or more recently than that. But also I'm looking at maybe an forecast on future of school. I'm not sure if we have enough information on that yet, and I'm concerned that residence halls may not be, the supply and demand issue may not be the same going forward.
So Mike Materna again, I'm not quite sure if I'll be the right person to answer that, but at least let me try to answer it as good as I can.
I can step in, Mike.
Okay, go ahead.
My name is Neil Davis. I'm the contract administrator in procurement services here at the University of Louisville. This project was originally bid in April of 2019, and it was bid as 2 phases, a phase 1 residence hall and a phase 2 residence hall. There are 2 separate buildings. The phase 1 residence hall is underway, and in, I believe it was November, it may have been early December, we received approval from University of Leadership after looking at the enrollment projections to proceed with the phase 2 residence hall, which is represented by this contract here before the committee today.
Yes, follow up.
One more follow-up, Mr. Chairman. So it says that you all are planning to pay for this architectural design with bonding. Could you go into more detail on the financial situation there and bonding for architectural design?
Sally?
Our financial people met, yes, Sally Malsberger, Chief Procurement Officer at the University of Louisville. We expect to have bond issuance. They met yesterday and set the time schedule and should have those bonds issued by the end of April. So that's where we will be engaged in needing to pay for services, and that's why the contract indicates general funds. However, once the bond issuance occurs, that will be what transfers over the expenditures for this contract.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Contract number 52, Representative Hart, seconded by Representative Cook. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth.
Mr. Chairman, explain my vote.
Well, certainly, please.
I'm going to vote pass. Building new buildings and using bonds for the architecture of them just makes me very nervous at this point in time where we are financially and where we all know where everyone else is financially as well. And so I'm just going to pass on this. So I really don't want to be approving things I'm not clear on.
Thank you.
Senator Yates.
Aye.
Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Mentor.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Aye.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, folks, for being available to us this morning.
Thank you.
Committee, we still have a lot of contracts to go through, and we're going to get really compressed here in time. Not trying to curtail any discussion whatsoever. Just want to make you aware of that so we can try to move through the rest of these as quick as possible. The next items on the pool list are with the Department of Highways. Are numbers 11, 21, 22, and 23 on the PSC Amendment Ivory list. If representatives are here, please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I am Eric Pelfrey, our Director of Professional Services with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. Also with me today, I have our project managers for each of these contracts. This first one, contract number 11, is Brad Bottoms out of our Elizabethtown office. Also, I have Renee Bouchery and Larry Kruger for the next contract, as well as Mike Beazold from our Covington office for the third contract. And then I believe Chris Kuntz just exited a different meeting and should be joining us hopefully in time for the final contract.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. And we'll start with Representative Cook. You have questions, as does Senator Southworth, but we'll start with Representative Cook this time.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Fairly easy. I can ask these all together in one big question. We seem to have a theme going with these, where the cabinet is looking to substantially increase their budgetary authorities on each of these products. 381,000, 312,000. We're increasing the budgetary authority by over $6 million. Can someone just please explain the process used in awarding these engineering contracts? Explain why they're awarded for the lesser amounts, and why that was not included in the original scope, and why the increased amount was not anticipated.
Absolutely, and thank you again for the opportunity to be with you all. I'm sure this won't come as a surprise to Co-Chair Meredith. You're used to our discussions, but over the past probably decade, the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet has almost changed our process of how we enter into these contracts. we now use a phased approach. So up until maybe 10 years ago, we would enter into an initial contract for the entirety of design. That really wasn't a good opportunity, similar to what University of Kentucky discussed. We want to be as honest and as accurate as possible with our estimates. So we don't feel comfortable when we don't know as much about the project early on, negotiating a large fee for these contracts. That's come back to bite us in the past. And we've learned that if we do a phased approach, we can narrow the focus, narrow the scope, and then only pay for the services which we truly need. So many of our projects have several alignments and alternatives. We can narrow those alignments and alternatives and only take those that are the preferred alignment to the next phase. And that's actually the case, I think, with all 4 of these. Like I said, I'm not the project manager for those, but just looking at the contract details, I believe that each of these contracts are ones where we initially awarded for the initial preliminary engineering phase, and now we are moving into the final roadway design phase. So we're narrowing the focus and just taking that preferred alignment to the next phase.
So, okay, I'm new to this, so I've got to ask. So I'm a little confused. So now we bid these in phases. So when someone bids, so we're bidding on a highway project, it's for a phase 1, then a phase 2, and a phase 3. It's not the whole project.
It's 2 phases. We advertise for the entire project, but within that advertisement, we include the option to contract mod for phase 2. So we only negotiate up front what we know up front, rather than agreeing to an amount that we don't feel comfortable with and then ending up having to pay for services which we're not comfortable with.
Okay.
So once the project progresses to the point that we are finishing preliminary engineering, we have a environmental process which requires NEPA, and NEPA documents as a part of that. Once we obtain those environmental approvals, we then can go into the final design phase, and that's where we have the more driven scope that we understand exactly what we're moving forward with.
Thank you.
Senator Southworth.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve all of these 4.
There's a motion to approve all of these contracts that we have requested pulled. If there are no other questions, I'll entertain a second to that motion. Second by Representative Hart. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, if you would please call the row.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth, Senator Yates.
Aye.
Representative Bowling, Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Aye.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. And just for clarification, Senator Southwood, when you said all of those, did that include number 22, 11, 21, 22, and 23? So I just want to take exception and make sure that Representative Cook doesn't have a separate issue with number 22. Okay, we're good. Thank you. Folks, appreciate you being in attendance this morning and appreciate you giving us your time.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Next items on the pool list are facilities and support services are number 26, 29, and 30 on the PSC Amendment Ivory list. If representatives are here, please identify yourself for the record.
My name is Jennifer Linton. I am the Executive Director of the Office of Facility Development and Efficiency with the Finance Cabinet. And with me to talk about these contracts today, I have Derek Pauley from the Energy and Environment Cabinet and Rob Lewis from the Tourism Cabinet.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here. And Representative Cook has questions about these contracts.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. On all these contracts, I'd like to have them explain the process used in awarding the consulting contracts, explain why they're awarded for the lesser amounts given, that it appears the amount was not included in the original scope, and why the increased amount was not anticipated.
It's very similar to the previous contracts for the Transportation Cabinet, and the way that they were described is these RFPs are issued and they're based on qualifications, and the consultants are selected on qualifications based on statute. in the initial contract is negotiated for the fee for what's known for the project. So similar to what Eric said at transportation is we don't want to enter into a contract not knowing the entire scope of the project. So as we get more comfortable with the project, we have the funds budgeted for the entire project, but we just don't issue the contract to the consultant for the entire project.
I understand.
We move along in our design process, similar to transportation. And then as you know, as the project's designed, we increase the design contract.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Senator Southworth.
Motion to approve 26, 29, and 30.
There's
Second.
a motion to improve 26, 29, and 30. There's a second by Representative Hart. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth, Senator Yates,
Aye.
Representative Bowling, Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Yeah.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, folks, for participating this morning. Appreciate the information.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the pool list is with the Attorney General and is number 1 on the routine MOA pink list. If representatives are here from the Attorney General's office, please identify yourself for the record. Is your mic on? I didn't hear that.
I apologize. I'm Greg Wolf. I'm the Commissioner of the Department of Criminal Investigations for the Office of Attorney General.
Good morning. My name's Stacy Woodrum. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Administrative Services.
Appreciate you being here this morning. I requested this contract be pulled partly because I want to give the committee historical perspective on this as well, that this is one of those contracts that was initially filed the previous session, and I was contacted by the Attorney General's office saying they were going to request a retroactive approval. It's because security issues related specifically to the Attorney General, and that we didn't have the resources at that time to provide security detail for him in his home. You folks remember that we had folks protesting at his home in Louisville, and he had some very strong threats to his life, and they requested security. So this is a continuation of the contract. And my question is, given that the original contract was $300,000, this one is $300,000, do we have any sense of how long this will continue? And if it does continue, is there some thought given that we need to do this differently than by private contract?
Yes, sir. We had obviously hoped that things would calm down. Unfortunately, as recently as Christmas Eve, we had asked Attorney General Cameron to leave his residence to caravans of protesters that were, we had intelligence were coming to his neighborhood and to his residence to start a fire. We are hopeful that things will calm down going forward, but at this time, we believe we need the assistance.
Just editorial comment. I'm hopeful as well, but I'm not optimistic in the near term, and that's why I posed the question. Is this something we should include in the budget for the state police to provide these services, or is this still the best avenue for us to do this?
We've talked with the state police. They just do not have the manpower to support us now. And we will attempt to. We've obviously got people involved in the security as well. Hopefully we won't have to keep looking to local law enforcement for help.
Well, obviously a very tragic situation, and we're sorry we have to do this for the Attorney General, and sorry for the people of Kentucky, because there's much better ways we could be spending these dollars, but yes, I appreciate it. Are there any other questions regarding this contract? If not, I entertain a motion to approve it as presented. Motion by Representative Hart, seconded by Representative Cook. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth, Senator Yates,
Aye.
Representative Bowling, Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Aye.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Appreciate you folks being here this morning. If you would, then please give the Attorney General our best wishes, and we hope this really does subside quickly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next item on the pool list with the Board of Elections, number 4 on the routine MOA pink list. If representatives here or we're doing video, please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning, Chairman. My name is Jared Deering. I'm the Executive Director for the State Board of Elections. On the call with us today is also Rachel Pointer. She is my fiscal manager.
Thank you. Appreciate you being in attendance this morning. Central Southwest has questions about your contract.
Good morning. I wanted to get a little more clarity on the Lexington or the Fayette County voting equipment. I know we've talked about a lot of different voting equipment that has been upgraded, and I'm just wondering if this happens to be this one meeting, we only have this one, or if there is more out there to come, and then exactly what the costs are and how many machines this covered.
To be clear, this is the contract itself is not for the purchase of election equipment. It's actually an MOA that we have with the Fayette County itself for the purchase of election equipment. This grant was originally awarded to the state in 2004 from the federal government. It is part of the release that Congress set forth in HAVA, which is the Help America Vote Act. That is the result of Bush v. Gore, and after the Congress came back and made allocations to the states for the purchase and upgrading of new election equipment that would meet best standards at that time. It's my understanding that in 2003, Clerk Don Blevins Sr., who was the clerk at the time, had purchased brand new election equipment. At the time, that was it met the standard of national best practices. It was my belief, part of state equipment.
Excuse me a moment, please. Someone's got an open microphone or need to be muted.
We have 2 aging ones.
I think we've got it now. Thank you. Please proceed. I'm sorry.
It's quite all right. In the interim, Clerk Blevins Sr. purchased brand new equipment right the year before this allotment was given by the federal government. So it's actually sat in trust in an account for Fayette County until this last year. Last year, that equipment came to the kind of end of its life cycle. We expect at least 15 years out of most of our equipment that we purchase at this point, and they got roughly that. They purchased brand new equipment that is what we call voter verified paper audit trail systems. They are Verity voting systems, both ballot marking devices and scanners. Sorry, Senator, I don't know if I can give you the exact number of pieces of equipment that were purchased, but roughly the purchase price was about $1.5 million. This allotment that was given to Fayette, like I said, has been an account for them since 2004, roughly $965,000 with a 5% match by the state, which was roughly $48,000.
Any other questions, Senator Southworth? Is there a motion to approve the contract as presented? Motion by Representative Cook, seconded by Representative Mentor. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth.
Mr. Chairman, explain my vote.
No, Senator.
I'm all for getting new voting equipment. That's a big priority that we need to make because there are some voting equipments that we know from years past that aren't amazing. But I'm still trying to get to the bottom of some of these systems, and in light of more recent events, I think we're aware that needs to be carefully done. So I'm going to vote pass, so I'm not supporting something I'm not for sure what it is.
Senator Yates.
Yes.
Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
No.
Representative Mentor.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. And thank you for being in attendance this morning and providing us information.
Thank you, Chairman.
Next item on the list, pulled list, is Department of Local Government, is number 16 on the routine MOA pink list. Representatives are here. Please identify yourself for the record.
Yes, good morning. My name is Billy Johnson. I'm the Executive Director for the Office of Federal Grants within Department for Local Government. And I've got my General Counsel with us today, Matt Stevens. He's on with me.
Appreciate you being in attendance this morning. Representative Cook has questions about this particular contract.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Thank you all for being on here with us today. So going through, I think there were over 250 contracts issued on COVID-19 grants to local governments across the Commonwealth. After consulting with staff, we decided to pull one contract just so we can have a discussion on the process rather than any particular one grant or group of grants. And just start off with a couple of questions to get this going. Department of Local Government, they're the repository for all local government budgets. Was community need a factor in awarding these grants? And then what sustaining documentation was provided for the monies requested? What follow-up is intended or has taken place to make sure these grants are not being used to supplant already budgeted funds by the cities in those counties? So just any kind of process to make sure that what is being reported is what actually happened and policing that.
Okay, if I missed some of those questions, please remind me. There was quite a few there thrown. But for the initial process of this, the U.S. Treasury set forth the guidance as to what these monies can be used for. DLG was in conversations with KACO and KLC, and the monies that were allocated are not necessarily grant monies. They are reimbursement funds per the U.S. Treasury. So KACO and KLC both set the population based on a formula for every city and county to receive allocations of those funds. So when we released those numbers to those communities and local governments, they had to fill out an application based on what they assumed that they would send to us for reimbursements. As long as those items were eligible per the U.S. guidance, we actually entered into a memorandum of agreement with the county or the city, and then they in turn have to send back a duplication of benefits form to us to make sure that they have not received any more federal funds for these particular items. Also, a follow-up request for disbursement form if they purchased PPE, or we have to have itemized invoices, copies of canceled checks. If their first responder payroll was added in as well, then they have to send us payroll ledgers minus any bonus incentive CLEF funding for police. But it also covered fire, ambulance. As of September 2nd, U.S. Treasury updated those guidance for local governments, and they were able to add in correctional staff payroll. So as long as it meets the guidelines, we honored those payments. Did that cover everything you needed?
Yeah. So when awarding those grants, did you ask any of the local governments about budget reserves to see if there were funds in the local budget that could have been used to cover the cost for which those grants were requested, or was this just a blanket free money kind of deal?
There was $300 million that was allocated for the counties and cities. And so when Kentucky Association of Counties and Kentucky League of Cities, with our discussions, that's what was allocated for that. It wasn't, we didn't have any questions between us and the locals as to what those items would be.
And finally, has there been or is there planned an audit of the funds and other federally funded programs to ensure the funds have been spent for those purposes for which they were intended and not used to increase any or city or the county budget reserves?
Upon their application, the first thing that they did receive from the Department for Local Government was a preliminary approval letter stating that they would be aware that there would be a 2 CFR audit in their near future. And we have been a constant reminder to our mayors and county judges of that as well.
Okay.
Any other questions? Now I'll entertain a motion to approve as presented. Representative Hart, is there a second? Second by Representative Cook. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the row.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth, Senator Yates,
Aye.
Representative Bowling, Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Mentor, Representative Cook, Chairman Meredith.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you for giving us your time this morning.
Thank you.
Next item on the pool list is number 275 of the routine MOA pink list. This is Department of Corrections. If representatives are here or online, please identify yourself for the record.
Cookie Cruz, Commissioner for the Department of Corrections.
Hillary Daly, Deputy Commissioner of Support Services.
Thank you for being here this morning. Senator Southworth has questions about your contract.
Good morning. In interest of time, I'm not going to ask first for an overview. I'm going to make an assumption, but if I'm wrong, then please do provide an overview. I'm familiar with drug testing, or at least not necessarily testing, but wastewater as far as informing drug presence and usage. And I'm wondering if that is the full intent of this as far as identifying drugs in our prisons, or am I totally off?
Well, you're not totally off, but it is to detect COVID in our wastewater.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
Are we trying to determine like how much COVID there is in a certain prison, or I'm trying to get, and I guess purpose for knowing that information and the value of it?
Well, here's the piece of it is that right now when we are, and I'll try to hurry this up a little bit. Right now, when we are trying to detect COVID in our 14 prisons across the way, it usually comes about where somebody is going out for a pre-op and the hospitals say, give us a recent COVID test. Then when that person tests positive, we end up having to contract that, trace out, and it virtually, the institutions are overthrown with COVID. The purpose of this is to be setting as a surveillance in your water treatment plants to say, hey, I think you've got an issue here you need to detect before it becomes so widespread that you'll be able to detect, I've got an issue, I need to find that issue, I need to contain that issue before we have to sit and bring down an institution and test everybody. That's the short of it.
If I could, let me try to make sure I understand this as well, because I think it's an excellent question. Let's assuming that presently there are no COVID cases in a prison or correction facility. So you're monitoring the water to see if there's presence, and then it would calls for a course of action. Is that fair?
That's fair.
So you're kind of doing some preemptive work on this.
That's fair. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, a follow-up?
Yes, please.
I don't have a total count from every institution, but it seems to me like at least the ones I do know about have 95% infection rate or more already. So I guess I would like to get a little more detail on, are these people going to end up being immune and not necessarily have COVID after this? Or, I mean, where this goes out for the rest of the year, I'm not sure. Is it going to be relevant at a certain point?
Well, the relevancy for the rest of the year is once we start getting staff, and we are some staff vaccinated. There's an added layer of protection where you have this running in your background to make sure that what we're doing up here is working. What was your other question?
I was saying that at least the institutions I'm aware of are 95% run over with COVID already, and so they might all be immune at this point.
Well, you also have to look at inmates coming in. These inmates may be going back out to the community, but you also have inmates that are currently in the jail that's coming into our institutions. And so you have to think long-term about what's coming in, what's going out, and what, when do we get to the point where we've gotten herd immunity to be able to say that it is safe to not do any of that.
Any other questions? Not, I'd entertain a motion to approve number 275 on the routine MOA pink list. Motion by Representative Hart. Is there a second? Second by Representative Cook. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the row.
Senator Hornback. Senator Southworth. Senator Yates.
Aye.
Representative Bowling. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Mentor. Representative Cook.
Aye.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. And thank you for being available to us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next item on the pull list with the Office of Health Data and Analytics is number 278 on the routine MOA pink list. If representatives are here or online, please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and the committee. I'm Tom Stratton, the Director of Procurement for CHFS. And I do have on some folks from the Office of Health Data and Analytics. If you all could introduce yourselves.
Sure. This is Robert Putt, Executive Director of the Office of Health Data and Analytics.
I'm Andrew Bledsoe, the Deputy Executive Director for the Office of Health Data and Analytics.
All right, thank you. Senator Southworth has questions regarding your contract.
I just wanted to get a little better handle on kind of the scope of this and what all it means in English.
So one of the divisions of the office or the department is the Kentucky Health Information Exchange, referenced as KHI. And Andrew Bledsoe, my deputy, oversees the functions of that division on a day-to-day basis. So he will explain to you the breakdown of the $3.365 million that you see there in this particular contract with the UK Outreach Extension Center.
Thank you. So just a real quick little summation of who we are and what we do. So the Kentucky Health Information Exchange, or KHI, we're a technology product that connects electronic health record systems in hospitals and doctors' offices. We connect to them to exchange clinical information with other healthcare entities. Part of this work is facilitating electronic public health reporting so that whenever a lab test result is captured, a case report is completed, or a vaccine is administered, and that's input into a healthcare facility's electronic health record system, we actually capture that, our technology product does, and we send that information to the Department for Public Health's registry or disease surveillance system. As part of the COVID pandemic crisis, we needed to increase the amount of healthcare entities, hospitals, and labs who are connected to us to submit electronic COVID lab test results. And so for every COVID lab test result that is submitted electronically, that negates an individual at the healthcare entity from having to manually fill out a form and someone from public health manually inputting that into their system. So in looking at overcoming the barriers to these facilities connecting to us, we do not charge for our services, but the major barrier is technology costs on their side. So we were provided by the CDC an epidemiology and laboratory capacity enhancement grant. And it was a 30-month project period grant that was provided to states with their COVID pandemic crisis as it relates to laboratory reporting. So we are using $3 million of that to provide out in provider incentives for those healthcare facilities who are electronically reporting to be able to connect to us. And so those would be direct incentives paid to those entities specifically for the purpose of an electronic connection between their technology platform and our technology platform. There was a few other small costs above the $3 million in this contract. We collaboratively host an annually eHealth Summit with the Kentucky Regional Extension Center, as well as a health system education contract, and that would be to increase the use and adoption of the KHI system inside of hospitals and doctors' offices. All of these were provided in one contract to the University of Kentucky Foundation that they would provide to the Kentucky Regional Extension Center. And the reason that this is specific to the Kentucky Regional Extension Center is we've collaboratively worked together for 10 years to promote the work of KHI, as well as they're a technical assistance provider that is federally funded to help provide electronic health record technical assistance to doctors' offices and hospitals. So kind of a summation of who we are, what the contract's being used for, and why it's going to the University of Kentucky Foundation.
Thank you for the excellent report.
Just a question. Do the managed care organizations have any involvement or access to this information as well?
Managed care organizations do through some of the other work that we do as the Health Information Exchange. This contract is specific to increasing the number of agencies who are reporting to the Department for Public Health.
Which I think is great. It's a good model to work from. I guess I'm looking maybe 5-10 years out as how we build a universal medical record. And certainly, as long as we get some federal funding for this, we can advance it. But I guess I'm curious as what happens when that federal funding is no longer available. And just like to plant the seed that one direct beneficiaries of this is going to be the managed care organizations, because they should be able to offer health care on a more timely, affordable basis. So I think we just like to keep that in the back of our mind. They've got a vested interest in this thing as well. And I think the benefits that they accrue should be recognized. But with that, any other questions, comments? Not entertain a motion to approve it as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Representative Hart. Is there a second? Second by Representative Cook. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed, no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth, Senator Yates.
Aye.
Representative Bowling, Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Mentor, Representative Cook.
Aye.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. And thank you, folks, for being available this morning and sharing your time and expertise with us. Next item on the pull list is with the Behavioral Health Development and Intellectual Disabilities, and number 3 on the MOA Amendment 10 list.
Hi, good morning. This is Katie Marks. I'm the project director for the Kentucky Opioid Response Effort in the Department for Behavioral Health, Developmental, and Intellectual Disabilities. And I have with me Jennifer Moore and Stephanie Craycraft, if they'd like to introduce themselves.
Thank you for being available this morning. And Senator Southworth has questions regarding your contract.
Yes, I wanted to just get a little bit of a better idea on the Narcan distribution. We've got an increase here that I guess more than doubles the current. And how much is this, like a per dose thing, or is this the operation of the program, or what all does this cover?
Yes, great question. So this is largely Narcan. We are paying for, of the $1.8 million increase, 1.6 of that is specifically for Narcan. It's $75 a unit. That's approximately 20,225 two-dose units that will go out across the state. The additional funds are a result of a new grant that was awarded to CORE in September that is specific to increasing access to opioid prevention, treatment, recovery, and reducing opioid-related overdose deaths.
Any other questions? Senator Southworth, any follow-up? Not entertain a motion to approve the contract as presented.
Second.
Motion by Representative Cook, seconded by Senator Yates. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth, Senator Yates.
Aye.
Representative Bowling, Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Mentor, Representative Cook.
Aye.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. The next item on the pull list with the Department of Public Health is number 48 on the MOA Amendment 10 list. If representatives are here from the Department of Public Health, please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning. My name is Jan Chamness. I'm the Division Director for Women's Health in the Kentucky Department for Public Health. I have with me Ellen Bernard, who is the Program Director for the Kentucky Women's Cancer Screening Program, and she can go into a little more detail about this particular contract. Ellen?
Thank you for being available to us this morning. Senator Southworth has questions.
Yes, this looks like a drastic increase, and I wanted to find out if this has anything to do with the fact that some of the health procedures weren't open last year, or kind of if you can just explain what's going on here.
Yes. Jan, you want to take that? Transformation?
Sure. So this is one of the contracts that we've increased as a result of public health transformation. Local health departments have the ability through transformation to accept funding from the Kentucky Women's Cancer Screening Program or not. And as long as they work with us and we can identify other organizations to work with who can provide eligibility and continue access of uninsured and underinsured women to low-cost or free screening mammograms or PAPs. We had a smaller contract with Kentucky Cancer Link initially, and they also do a similar type thing with the Kentucky Colon Cancer Program. So in order to continue to assure access to these women, we have increased our contract with Kentucky Cancer Link to be able to determine eligibility and to also, if cancer it ends up being a diagnosis, then we also have they have the ability to sign those individuals up for the Medicaid breast and cervical cancer treatment program. So it really has allowed us to increase our access of these women through this contract.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, entertain a motion to approve as presented. Without objection.
So move.
Motion by Representative Hart, seconded by Representative Cook. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth, Senator Yates.
Aye.
Representative Bowling, Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Minter, Representative Cook.
Aye.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you for your attendance this morning. The final item on the pull list is with the Medicaid Services Benefits and is number 63 on the MOA list. If representatives are here, please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning. I'm Lisa Lee. I'm the Commissioner for the Department for Medicaid Services. And I have with me Lee Geis, who is the Division Director for Policy and Operations within the Department for Medicaid Services.
Thank you for being available to us this morning. I know you folks are very, very busy, but just would like a very brief explanation as to what has prompted this increase of 16 million. I think I know the answer, but just want to hear from you folks.
So the Department for Medicaid Services contracts with the Office of Transportation Delivery to provide non-emergency medical transportation to our Medicaid members. The contract operates on a per member per month basis. So we pay the department or pay Office of Transportation Delivery a per member per month for every Medicaid enrollee to provide those services. So with the increase in Medicaid enrollees due to COVID, individuals losing their jobs, losing their health insurance, that increase resulted in additional per member per month costs for transportation. The Office of Transportation Delivery receives these funds and they pay brokers who in turn provide those funds to drivers who provide the transportation for our members. Those increased funds are being used to ensure the health safety of our members by implementing additional cleaning and sterilization methods in the vehicles to ensure the vehicles are sanitized properly. They're also being used for personal protective equipment for some of the drivers, again, to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of our members and the drivers who transport them to their medical services.
So in summary, it's because of increase in Medicaid enrollment, increase in expenses associated with, and also increased services, again, related to COVID-19. Is that fair?
Yes, Chairman.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments? If not, entertain a motion to approve. Motion by Representative Hart, seconded by
Second.
Representative Cook. All those in favor of the motion, vote aye. All opposed, vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth, Senator Yates,
Aye.
Representative Bowling, Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Minter, Representative Cook,
Aye.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye, motion carries. Just to note that we did have 3 exemption requests, and rather than go through those, they don't require any action on our part. It's just for information purposes. Excuse me, I stand corrected. This does take a motion. Again, 3 requests, one from Department of Agriculture, one from Department of Military Affairs, and one from Energy and Environmental Cabinet. Motion by Representative Hart, seconded by Representative Cook. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed, no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Hornback, Senator Southworth, Senator Yates,
Aye.
Representative Bowling, Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Minter, Representative Cook,
Aye.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye, motion carries. Before we adjourn, just please be aware that our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, February 9th. And since obviously we'll be back in session, we'll be upon adjournment of both chambers. So just please prepare for that. I'd appreciate it. Appreciate everyone's participation this morning. Great questions, and look forward to serving with all of our new members. No other business. We stand adjourned. Thank you.